Well, 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 well. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. God bless you. Look at the holidays are on us. Come on now. Okay, I gotta give you something for the holidays. I do want to talk about a virus that's going around. I haven't heard any name given to it yet, but it's bizarre. But before I do that, I'm going to talk about Mrs. Firestone. Hazel Firestone. I talked about it before, and but this time of year, um, I met Mrs. Firestone when I must have been 10, 9 or 10. And what happened was, and she's every holiday, she comes to mind because her heart was so pure, you know. Her name was Hazel Firestone, and she was a red-headed woman. She was a Jewish lady, and she lived next door to the house that my mother bought. Okay, I should say my pop bought for my mother, you know. And we moved in, and she greeted my mother over the fence in the backyard where my mother was hanging clothes. And she called her over, and she says, "Hello, hello, hello." And I was in the backyard at the time. And she says, "What are you all doing over there in the yard?" And my mother said, "Well," and referring to me, "oh, she's just getting ready to plant a garden," because I was pulling up the weeds and turning over the little rocks in the yard while my mother was putting clothes on the line. And she says, "Well, I have something. You have all those children over there. I hope you won't be offended, but I have something I'd like to give you." And my mother says, "Well, what is it?" She says, "Come here. Come to the fence." So my mother went to the fence, and Mrs. Firestone raised up a huge platter full of food. It was all this cooked food, and it was a great big roast on the middle of it, and all these different things all around it, potatoes and carrots, and just a huge platter of food. And my mother said, "Well, my God, what is that?" "Well, you have all these children, and I know you could use this." And my mother was hesitant but grateful, and she accepted it, and they passed this huge platter over the fence. And anyway, this started a friendship that lasted, for me, I'm 74 now. So she's still in my heart. And let me tell you a little bit about Mrs. Firestone. Now, she had a son. I don't remember meeting him because he was grown at the time. But she had her husband, who was a very dear and devoted husband. And he did work, and she would go out every day. And he went to work every day. And what happened is she was a Holocaust survivor. And Mrs. Firestone had starved. She starved. And she had a lot of medical issues because of that. She had diabetes was one of them, many problems that she had. But she had this trauma that she had gone through as a child of going without food. So she had a tendency to stock up. I mean, really, she had a room in the back of her house. It was only I think it was like a 1 or 2 bedroom house, but there was an extra room in the back where she kept cases of food. Now that might not be unusual nowadays, because a lot of people do store up a lot, especially people in the country. And actually, when we lived in San Francisco at this time, it was kind of like country. It was really like country, as a matter of fact, because it was in Ingleside, California. The house was on Lower Street, and we had the big farmhouse on the street. She had the little house next door. There was another house on the other side of us, and those people had goats. There was a school across the street, and then directly across from us was a house that had, almost second story or third story, maybe second and a half story stairs to get to the front door. Next door to that was this huge fenced-in yard with bushes all over it, where a man named Charlie lived. And Charlie and my birthday was on the same day. And I say this because Charlie gave me a gift for my birthday when I was 12. And it was opal. My birthday's in October. He gave me a large opal gold ring. And the ring, it was a man's ring. His mother had given it to him. And it was so soft, the gold, you could pinch it to fit my finger. Not completely, but still a clump of gold there. But yes, my mother wouldn't let me have it. She said, let me take care of that for you. And I never saw it again. But it was huge. And he wanted me to have this ring because it was important to him to pass it on to someone else. His mother passed it on to him. But it was a wonderful gift. Well, Charlie was an older man. I think he was in his late 70s. And he had honeybees. And he would go out and he would clap his hand and honeybees would scatter. And he'd clap his hands and the honeybees would come back. Well, Mrs. Firestone, now the story's supposed to be about her, right? I've gotten into the whole neighborhood. Not quite, but it's moving in that direction. Anyway, she and my mother got to be really good friends because she took it upon herself to share all of her knowledge with my mother. And she gave me some knowledge before she passed away. And let me tell you, I'll tell you about that. That's the whole purpose of coming to the story. But she taught my mother how to shop secondhand. And people would say, my mother had a lot of kids, right? Okay, like 9 kids at one time. Raymond and Gwen were grown and gone. So, but she had all of these kids in the house. And we dressed with the best clothes. We had the latest styles, the top quality. And the reason we did was because Mrs. Firestone taught my mother how to go to all of these stores. And the stores that I'm talking about were Jewish outlets. They were only for Jewish people. They were for the members of their, organizations, their nonprofit organizations. And there was one place in particular that my mother found great favor and beautiful clothes in, and that was a place called Kitty Trade. And it was over on, I believe it was Schrader and Haight. It was a little ground floor store where they had children's clothes that the people in their congregation would bring in clothes the children outgrew and exchange them for larger sizes that someone else's child outgrew. And they were the top quality, the best you can get clothing. And we got them all. So my mother would go in there and they would allow you also to purchase. And the prices were ridiculously low. So since Mrs. Firestone took my mother in there, they allowed her to shop. But this was only for their closed organization. And then Mrs. Firestone would go to all these big sales at some big hall downtown San Francisco. They would have these great big sales every year. Anyway, that was very significant. And she would tell us about the stories that they were rummage sales, is what they called them. And then she would take my mother on these routes out Highway 280 down all the way to San Jose. And they would hit these secondhand stores all the way down. I know because I went with them quite often. And that's why I really got into that as an adult. But the quality of clothes, people were amazed that my mother could dress us so well. This is all about Mrs. Firestone and her golden heart. Okay, now, what I want to tell you is about the fabulous food that she was a wonderful cook. She had the best turkeys you ever want to see in your life. They were, like glazed, beautiful, beautiful turkeys. Wonderful food. This woman could cook, and she would outcook anybody's chef. Well, there was a secret she shared with me one day. And, I think I was like 17. And we moved down to Menlo Park. And she came to visit us in Menlo Park. And she was in the kitchen. She was helping with the Thanksgiving dinner. And she had been ill. She wasn't taking care of herself. My mother said she wasn't taking care of herself. And she went over to the stove. She turned around, and I was sitting there watching her. And she said, now listen, I want to show you this. And I says, okay. And she showed me the turkey and how she says, let me show you how to finish off your turkey. And before she put the turkey in the oven, she says, this is my secret. She rubbed the turkey down after dressing it and basting it under the skin. She rubbed the skin down with vegetable glycerin. This was her secret. And when she showed me that, I started to cry. And I ran out of the kitchen. And my mother said, what's wrong with you? Why'd you do that? I said, because she's giving me her secrets, and I know she's going to die. And she said, that's a terrible thing to say. She said, well, why? I said, why would she give me her secrets? All these years, why she give me all her secrets? And Mom said, don't say that. That's terrible. Well, I just wanted to know that she did pass away that next week. Okay. Well, you said Corey. That's a terrible story to tell. This is a Thanksgiving celebration time. We don't want to hear about something that's negative. It's not negative. Mrs. Firestone did wonderful things for people when she was here. She left her heart here with so many people. Here I am on the radio talking around the world about her. Right now, how many years later? 60 years later. That was a wonderful woman. And yes, she did. And let me tell you how she passed away. Her diabetes finally was out of control, and she was shopping. She was doing what she loves. She was downtown San Francisco at that big building where they had the rummage sale, and she collapsed on the stairs on the way out. She had a wonderful time shopping. And I'm telling you, I love her so much. So much. Anyway, I'm sharing with you her recipe. Now, that's not such a big thing, but it is. It is. There's a lot of things she taught me, but that glycerin was such a big deal because it makes sure it closes the skin. It seals the skin. It tightens it up so all the juices stay in. Yeah, all the juices stay in your turkey. Now, I don't eat turkey anymore. I don't eat any kind of animal flesh right now, because I'm vegan. But some of you do, and this is a secret that you can have. This is a gift from Mrs. Hazel Firestone, okay? Rubbing down your turkey before you put it into the oven with vegetable glycerin. And the skin will seal up, all the juices stay in. And what you do is you put rub down a brown paper bag, make a tent out of it, rub it down with butter. That's what she used, butter. You could use whatever you want, but you moisten it with the lubrication, and you wet it so it's nice and wet, and you set it on top of your turkey, and you start cooking it that way first, okay? And you cook it till it's almost done. Then you remove the bag and let it brown, and that glycerin will come out shiny, and all the juices are sealed inside that turkey. Okay, so that's the secret that I'm sharing with you for Thanksgiving dinner. You can fix that. Okay, another thing I want to say is try to fix your pies. That was my specialty, the potato salad and the pies. And this time of year, potatoes are in, So potato salad is right on time. Now, you can do a potato salad the old-fashioned way, just like you did before. And if you're vegan, just use your vegan mayonnaise. There's several companies that are producing it now as mayonnaise without any animal products, no eggs, So, so you can do the same as you did before. Just use your vegan mayonnaise. It'll taste the same. There's no difference. The celery you use, I use relish. Some people use dill. I don't use dill in mine, but people in the South use a lot of mustard and dill. Okay, so however you fix your food, and in fact, one of my nieces, contact me and asked me to share some of the recipes, some vegan recipes, because she just became vegan. And what I want to say is you need to do the most important thing and make sure you get plenty of protein. And where you're going to get that is mostly from your beans. Okay, there's a lot of vegetables that you can get protein from, but mostly from the beans. Always make sure you have, and there's a lot of beans to choose from. What I do is I use the spices and herbs that I used before, and so you don't have to change any of that. If you're vegan, all you do is change the protein that you're using. You can process your beans. You can put those in a meat processor, or your blender, and grind that up and use that. You can make. The thing is, I try to avoid gluten, and a lot of the roasts that are prepared, vegan roasts, they're held together with gluten. Well, you can hold them together with other things. You can use vegan gelatin, which is agave. I think it's one of it that you can use. But everything that you do, just do it the same way. Just eliminate the animal. You can have all the same flavors. One of my nieces, what she said was, she wanted my recipes and not those on the internet because of the difference in the flavor. And my food always tastes good. Well, that's because I use the same spices and herbs that I was using before in the vegan dishes. There's no reason to have to make it bland, my chili beans are really chili beans, but I smash up tofu and brown that and make that in a texture of ground beef. And I add all my seasonings in there as well as in the beans, and it's just fabulous. In fact, people can't tell the difference. And the same thing with my enchiladas and everything else, Okay. So, just do what you did before. Same spices and herbs. That's all I got to say about that. But I want to talk about something that's been going around. I noticed a couple of things that are bizarre, and I think eventually the reason that these things are happening will unfold. There's some kind of a virus that's going around that is really very different. I've never seen this before. It may have been around in other countries. I don't know. But you get an eye infection. Okay, an eye infection, and you get an ear infection, and you get a sore throat. Your saliva glands get all inflamed. You get a sinus infection. You get terrible headaches. You start coughing, sneezing, runny nose. Does this sound familiar? Have you gone through this? And do you have family members that are going through this? What is this? It's bizarre. It's like a cold, allergy, flu all rolled up into one. So let me tell you, this is dangerous. Whatever it is, I've never, ever seen or heard of this before. Whatever it is, get to your doctor. Don't worry about running into emergency. Go to the doctor. It's a lot cheaper. Get to your doctor. Tell your doctors all your symptoms and get on those antibiotics quick, because this can turn into something very, very serious, like a serious case of pneumonia. This is a bacteria type of virus because it comes with infections. That's scary. So I've heard a lot of people, it hit me, and I've had my flu shots. I've had pneumonia shots, recently. It hit me, but I talked to a lot of people who've been going through the same thing. So this is something going around, and you do want to get to the doctor. Get a doctor's appointment as soon as possible, because you don't want to go in emergency in the middle of the night, okay? All right. The other issue you can deal with is building up your immune system before it touches you. Vitamin C. This is that time of year. The weather's changing. You don't want to be sick for the holidays. So get up on your vitamin C and stay up on it, okay? And get it fresh and natural if you can. Rose hips is a dynamic way to get some vitamin C. Drink it a couple times a day, you know? Fix you some rose hip tea. Try to get it as fresh as you can, but dried. You know, a lot of stores have it, and you can get it online as well. A lot of the health stores have it. But if you can't do that, however you get it, try to get some natural, but get your vitamin C. Build your immune system up, because this is a very heavy time of getting sick. The weather is going to be bad for a long season. We're supposed to have a very long and a very cold winter. So get yourself ready right now. And don't forget to wear layers. Layers. When you touch railing, when you touch things, wash your hands. There's a lot of bacteria being passed around from elevator buttons, doorknobs, railings. So keep you some sanitizer in your pocket or in your purse. And when you touch things, before you touch your face, your hand, or your body, or touch food, you know, because sometimes we're out and we grab food when we're out, wash your hands with your sanitizer. This is very important because you do not want to be sick during this time of the year because the weather gets so harsh. Okay? All right, so we're about out of time. Listen, I'm so sorry for all this negative stuff on the holidays, but it's important for you to hear. There's one more thing I want to mention is, for some reason, the Highway Patrol and the Sheriff's Department are driving around in Oakland. Now, I don't know if they're all over Alameda County, but they're driving around in Oakland and giving people citations for the most minor fractions. You know, they're driving behind people's cars looking for issues to give them tickets for. Now, I know that they could ride on the highways, but I think there's something special going on, and it might just be a money-grabbing issue. So just heads up out there. Make sure your taillights are fixed. Make sure everything is copacetic, because they're out there to get you. And I don't know why there are so many of them out there roaming around the streets of Oakland. It sounds like it's pushing us out type of thing happening again. God bless you. I love you. Take care of yourself and your loved ones, and have a wonderful holiday.